All right, thanks, guys. The Georgia Bulldogs take on the Gators of Florida, and that's going to be a 3:30 Eastern kickoff at the TIAA Bank Field. Now, that was formerly Everbank Field in Jacksonville, Florida. That is the home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Georgia Bulldogs open the betting as the 4.5-point favorite. They're now -4. Totals at 48. We saw a half a point fade of Georgia in the early wagering. We saw movement downward on the total as well. Once again, the Bulldogs of Georgia open -4.5 down to -4. Total open 48.5 down to 48 even. Now the Bulldogs are 6-1 straight up on the year, but they're just 3-4 against the spread. They've also failed to cover in 3 out of their last 4 games. They failed to cover against Kentucky, South Carolina, which was actually an outright loss to South Carolina. They also failed to cover against Notre Dame as well. Now, the Bulldogs are 69th in passing yards on the road. They're also 55th in pass yards allowed. And for those who are into historical trends, they failed to cover in 6 out of their last 10 head-to-head matchups with the Gators. Now, Georgia has scored 23 points or less in 3 out of their last 4 games. We're looking at Cager, Harrion, Webb, Campbell, Davis, Walker, all questionable for Saturday's action as well. Now, Florida on the other side, a little bit different story. They're 7-1 straight up overall, 6-2 against the spread. They've actually successfully covered the number in their last 5 straight. They have successful marquee covers over the likes of South Carolina, LSU, and Auburn, depending on where you were shopping at. Now, they're led by Kyle Trask, who has 1,391 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions, and a QBR of 80.3. Now, when it comes to the rushing game, they're led by LaMichael Pirine, who's got 460 yards on the ground, 4 touchdowns, and 4.6 yards per carry. When it comes to the receiving end of things, Pitts and Swain both have 4 touchdown catches apiece. And when it comes to this stingy Florida defense, David Reese is leading that category with 66 tackles. Meanwhile, Jonathan Grenard has 4 sacks. Now, Sean Davis is leading that secondary with 3 interceptions. And when it comes to the total, Florida is 5-3 to the under on the year. And they're also 4-0 to the under as the official home team. So, of course, they're not technically home in this matchup, but they are technically the home team in this game. Now, on the other side, the Bulldogs of Georgia, they actually scored 30 points, I don't think they scored. I meant to say they gave up 30 points or more in 4 out of their last 7. But that stat, I don't know what I was trying to say there. But anyway, I think this one's going to go under. Once again, Florida 5-3 to the under on the year, 4-0 to the under as the official home team. So with all that said and done, I'm going to lean toward the Gators of Florida +4. And the under 48 in that game. And before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to the show. Got some lines of personal leans out for college football week 10. But before we get into some more of that, I just want to quickly remind you to check me out on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage. We do daily plays on that website beginning at just $1.99 per month. We have a bunch of different memberships, tiers, and packages that you can subscribe to. You can also access my current record for free right on the homepage. All you got to do is click the link in the description section below. That is patreon.com/BrockPage. All right, next game we're going to slide into is SMU taking on Memphis. Now, that's a little bit of a later game. We're kind of bouncing around here on the big screen. But we have SMU taking on Memphis, and that's going to be a 7:30 Eastern kickoff. I believe it's called the Liberty Bowl Arena or Liberty Bowl Center, or maybe just the Liberty Bowl. But anyway, that's going to go down in Memphis. So right now, Memphis is -4.5, total 68 and a hook. We saw a 1.5-point move toward Memphis, a movement upward on the total. Memphis opened 3 up to 4.5. Total opened 68 up to 68 and a hook. 52% are leaning toward the Mustangs of SMU. And at the moment, SMU's +160 on the money line. Now, if you like SMU in this matchup here, really can't blame you. They're 8-0 straight up overall, 6-2 against the spread. But if you're into historical trends in head-to-head matchups, SMU has failed to cover in their last 5 straight taking on Memphis. And as a matter of fact, they're just 2-5 against the spread in their last 7, taking on a member of the AAC. 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 games played in the month of November as well. Their defense is 71st in points allowed on average per game. They also rank 111th in pass yards allowed, 109th in pass yards allowed on the road. Now, this SMU defense gave up 27 points or more in 5 out of their 8 games this year. Now, Memphis on the other side, they are 7-1 overall for the year, 5-3 against the spread, 3-1 ATS at home. They're led by a quarterback, Brady White, who's thrown for 2,161 yards on the year, 20 touchdown passes to just 4 interceptions, 74.5 QBR. Now, when it comes to the ground game, they are led by Kenneth Gainwell, who has nearly 1,000 yards in the year. He should eclipse that after this game. He's actually got 979 yards on the ground, so just a couple carries away from breaking 1,000 for the year. He's also rushed for 11 touchdowns thus far. Now on the receiving end, Coxey's got 529 receiving yards. Gibson's got 5 touchdowns receiving as well. And when it comes to the defensive side of things, Austin Hall's got 45 tackles on the year. Dorseus has 3 sacks. Johnson, 2 interceptions. And when it comes to the total, Memphis is 6-2 to the over on the year. SMU 8-0 to the over, depending on where you're shopping at. I'm going to purchase the half a point, slide it down, and take Memphis -4 in the over 68.5 in that game. All right, let's go ahead and slide into our next matchup. Now we're going to go back to a noon start time, and it is going to be Michigan taking on Maryland, and that is a 12 o'clock Eastern kickoff at the University of Maryland. And as you can see, we got a lot of games here. Let's see if that is on the board. Yes, it is. Michigan at Maryland. Now, the Wolverines are -18, total at 56. Believe it or not a whole lot of movement on this total here. We did see a 1-point move toward Michigan, though. The Wolverines open 17, up to -18. Total open and remains at 56. 83% of the consensus are leaning toward Michigan. And at the moment, Maryland is +700 on the money line. Now, if you like the Terrapins in this matchup here, just keep in mind they've lost 5 out of their 8 games this year. They're just 4-4 against the number as well. They rank 111th in offensive time of possession, and they're also 118th in pass yards allowed. Maryland just 1-8 straight up in their last 9 conference games, and they failed to cover in 4 out of their last 5 head-to-head matchups with Michigan. Now, the Wolverines on the other side coming off a nice victory over Notre Dame. They crushed them. They're 6-2 straight up on the year, 4-1 against the spread in their last 5. Charbonnet is leading the team with 9 touchdowns on the ground. Bell has 441 yards receiving. Now, on the defensive side of things, that's really been the heartbeat of this Michigan squad. Hudson has 69 tackles already. Glasgow has 55 tackles and 4 sacks. Also, when it comes to getting to the quarterback, Pay and Oosh they both have 5.5 sacks apiece. And when it comes to the secondary, Thomas and Hill have 2 interceptions apiece as well. One person to note, Dominique Peoples-Jones, arguably the best player on this team. Certainly the best player on the offensive side of things. He's really been keyed on this year, doubled up. He still does have 3 touchdowns on the season. Now, this Michigan squad is 21st in points allowed, 8th in passing yards allowed, 8th in yards per play allowed. When it comes to the total, Michigan is 5-1 to the over in their last 6. Maryland, 80% to the over in their last 5 at home. I'm going to lean Wolverines on the road here. Give me Michigan -18 and the over 56 in that game. All right, we're going to slide into our next and final matchup for the show, and it is going to be on the West Coast. I'm talking about an 8 o'clock Eastern kickoff, and that's going to be Oregon taking on USC. And once again, that is an 8 o'clock Eastern kickoff at USC. Now, the Ducks are -5, total 60.5. Not a whole lot of movement on this spread, although we did see a little bit of movement upward on the total. Not a whole lot. But once again, Oregon's -5, total open 60, up to 60.5. 64% are leaning toward the Ducks. And at the moment, USC is +165 on the money line. Now, if you like the Trojans in this matchup here, just keep in mind they failed to cover in 4 out of their last 8. They also rank 106th in time of possession and 83rd in pass yards allowed. A couple more things to add about the Trojans. They are 96th in rushing yards allowed as well, and they failed to cover in 13 out of their last 17 games as the official Vegas underdog course, if you're into historical trends. Now, Oregon on the other side, great defense. 9th in points allowed, 14th in rush yards allowed. They're 7-1 straight up on the year, 2-0 against the spread away from home, and 4-2 against the number in their last 6. They're led by Justin Herbert, who's completing 68.3% of his passes. He's thrown for over 2,100 yards, 21 touchdowns, and just 1 interception, and he has a 75.1 QBR. Now, Verdell has 753 yards rushing. Habibi Likio has 6 rushing touchdowns. Breland is leading the receiving with 405 yards and 6 touchdowns from that tight end spot. Funya has 4 sacks. Holland has 4 interceptions. McKinley has 3 interceptions himself. When it comes to the total, Oregon's 5-3 to the under on the year. USC 5-3 to the under themselves. I'm going to lean Oregon Ducks -5 and the under 60.5 in that game. All right, let's slide into our quick pick recap brought to you by patreon.com/BrockPage. I like Oregon -5 under 60.5. Michigan -18 over 56. Memphis -4 over 68.5. And the Florida Gators +4 and the under 48 in that game. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Once again, don't forget to check me out on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage, where we do daily plays on that website beginning at just $1.99 per month. There's also plenty of different memberships, tiers, and packages that you can subscribe to. You can also access my current record for free right on the homepage. All you got to do is click the link in the description section below. That is patreon.com/BrockPage. And most importantly, I got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. Happy Monday to you. Best of luck to you. And don't forget to check me out on patreon.com/BrockPage.